Welcome to the Real Life Planning Podcast. I'm Cynthia Meyer with Real Life Planning. And today we are talking with Kristen Ambrose. I'm really excited about this because as a financial planner, I can geek out on numbers and systems. And Kristen is a bookkeeper for real estate investors. She's a certified public accountant, a CPA by training, who launched her own business serving this niche population. And boy, is there a need for this. So welcome, Kristen. Thank you.
Yes, thanks so much. I'm excited to chat with you today. I can totally relate to geeking out about numbers.
So tell us what's important to know about you.
Sure. I studied accounting in college. I got my CPA license shortly after I graduated, like you mentioned. I started my career at PwC in the audit practice, working mostly with insurance clients. Didn't really love auditing, so I moved into financial consulting. I worked at a firm in New York City, and that I really loved. We specifically worked with small businesses, helping them clean up their financial records and then help them set up their financial bookkeeping and accounting process for a monthly close every month. So during that time while I was working there, my husband and I started investing in real estate. During 2020, we had some more free time at home.
Good time.
Yes. We just dove into all of Bigger Pockets content, learning as much as we could. And then we bought our first duplex in New Jersey during that time. And we house hacked that property. And we actually still live there today, 5 years later.
Fantastic. Your first home or just your first house hack?
No, actually, we owned a house before this, a large house near the suburbs of New York City because we both worked in the city. And we spent a lot of money on that house. We thought it'd be our forever home. And we were sitting there looking at each other like, we have a giant 4-bedroom house that we're not using. What are we doing? Like, we're spending so much money on this. So we sold that house, basically broke even on it, and then ended up buying the duplex instead. And with the money that we had from that one large house, we ended up buying a duplex and 3 long-term rentals. So we were just like, oh, we should be a little bit more smarter with our money.
I think that's a really savvy decision. Certainly, if I could go back and give my younger self a piece of advice that was related to finances, it would be to house hack. It's a brilliant way to get started, both as building home ownership and your real estate investing portfolio all in one fell swoop.
Yeah, it's been the reason I could start Ambrose Bookkeepers because we had such a low cost of living that I could actually finally make that jump from corporate America to start my own business. The goal has always been to work for myself. I started Ambrose Bookkeepers about 2.5 years ago with the intention of providing really high quality bookkeeping just to real estate investors. Kind of want to combine my two passions of real estate and accounting. And yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm doing my favorite parts of accounting and I'm working with my favorite group of people, real estate investors. So it's been the best.
What do you like most about working with real estate investors?
I love the population of people that we're working with. They're also driven. They have similar goals of trying to generate wealth for their family, and they're passionate about what they're doing. And it's just a group of people that I resonate with. So it's fun that we get to work with them.
You said you'd always wanted to work for yourself. Let's unpack that a little bit. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I always wanted to work for myself in the sense that I want to control my own time. I had great experiences in corporate America. I worked on great teams. I actually really loved my last job. But it's just at the end of the day, I wanted to be able to set aside certain time for my family whenever I wanted it. We can now travel and I don't have to ask for permission for time off. I can work nights and then make sure I have like afternoons with my son. So that's always been the goal. And it's just been amazing now that I have that flexibility.
So tell us a little bit more about who you work with and the kinds of things that you do for your clients.
So we work exclusively with real estate investors, inquiries all the time for other businesses. And I'm like, no, we just want to work with real estate investors. Some of our clients, they have another like side business. We'll help them with that. Mostly like long-term rental owners, short-term rental owners. We work with a lot of flippers, some realtors. And what we do is mainly monthly bookkeeping. And that's always going to start with a cleanup, inevitably, unless you had a really good bookkeeper beforehand. We're going to clean up your books, get everything organized so that we can run reports by both business and by property. And then from there, we're going to set up a good monthly bookkeeping cadence where we're getting on a regular schedule of categorizing all your transactions, reconciling your bank and credit card accounts, and reviewing your financials monthly. So we review balance sheet and P&L with all of our clients monthly so they really understand how their business is performing and they have the data to make decisions as they grow.
So I think it's so important that we work only with real estate investors at Real Life Planning. And this is a common area that I see needs work with client populations who are otherwise doing really well for themselves. They're building and scaling a large portfolio. That big chunk of our clients are already work optional. They're professional real estate investors that are living off their real estate business. And I see people, when it comes to tax time, I see that people have made mistakes, gotten an expense, or they haven't organized their books according to the way their accountant would like to look at them, or they've commingled personal and business finances.
Definitely. It's almost surprising how much bookkeeping is like on the back burner for a lot of investors. And I get it. It's not the exciting part of running a business. I think they're so focused on acquiring that next deal and doing deal analysis before they get the property. Once they actually have the property in their portfolio, a lot of people just forget to look at the numbers afterwards. And I think bookkeeping is really what takes that investment from just an investment to a business. So understanding how that property is performing, how much income is it generating every month, revenue and expenses. I hear all the time from potential clients like, oh yeah, my property should be cash flowing on the napkin and the numbers make sense, but I have no money in my bank account. So we help them understand that. Where is the money going? And especially there's instances where maybe you have 15 long-term rentals and you're, I don't know, making $5,000 a month in cash flow. And then we figure everything out for you by property. And you realize, oh, I could sell a few of these and I'll be making more cash flow and managing less properties, helping our clients get some real data so that they can make decisions or learn from what's going on in their business.
I think that's so important, Kristen. When I teach other financial planners in the real estate financial coach course, I invite them to think of real estate owners as business owners. It might not be on your Schedule C, business profit and loss on your tax return, but real estate doesn't run itself. It's not really passive. It's just treated as passive income in the tax return. And consequently, if you think of it as a business, whether you own one rental property or 27, that helps you make better and more informed decisions. And you need numbers for that. You need to be tracking and measuring.
Investor myself, I know it's not that fast. But yeah.
Are you managing your own doors? Do you have property management?
No, we have a property manager in Florida, and then we manage our own property in New Jersey.
If you're watching or listening to this conversation and you don't have a bookkeeping system for your real estate business right now, how can you get started?
So I would say, you highlighted on this before, first, let's focus on separating those personal and business transactions. Make sure you have a business-specific account, a business-specific email. That'll make your bookkeeping way easier. So once you have that, I think we use QuickBooks Online for all of our clients. We really love it. It's a great software because all tax CPAs are familiar with it. But let's just say you have one or two rental properties. It might not be time to purchase a QuickBooks subscription. So I think it's totally fine to start in Excel. Just basically, you should be tracking all of your income and expenses by property. And the way to do that is once you have that specific business bank account, credit card, you could just pull those statements into Excel and categorize each of the transactions on there by property and putting them in the correct bucket of revenue and expenses.
So if you're categorizing expenses, do you have a specific way you like people to categorize?
So we use the same chart of accounts for all of our clients, and that's based on the tax return. That's based on feedback we've gotten from tax CPAs. That's what we use, and that's what I would recommend using. And a lot of the tax CPAs will send you a form at the end of the year to fill out. I would just use the form that tax CPA sent you to categorize your expenses. That way you don't have to do a remapping at the end of the year. Everything's already in the format that you need it.
So if you're creating expense categories for yourself that are the categories on Schedule E with maybe some subcategories in that, if you want to track them separately, like how much an electric versus gas, for example, then you should organize them in your accounting software that way.
Exactly.
Okay. So what are the things that you tell your clients to track every month? Is it metrics of health or things to pay attention to in their real estate?
So we get them into the habit of reviewing their balance sheet and P&L every month. Of course, more clients are interested in the P&L so that we can see how each property is performing. So we're looking at that cash flow every month by property. And we're also looking at any admin expenses every single month to see, because those kind of sneak up on you. There's like a subscription here, a subscription there, all of a sudden your admin expenses are the reason that your cash flow is down. So it's really just a matter of getting them in the habit of looking at it that leads to much easier decisions being made for their business. So it's pretty simple metrics, really.
As somebody's business grows, what signs should they be looking for that it's time to go see a professional keeper?
Yes. So I think a lot of people can relate to the feeling being like so overwhelmed about their bookkeeping, feeling like they just cannot stay on top of it. They're always months behind. Sometimes clients are even years behind. If that's you and you can't get on top of it, it's probably a sign you should outsource. Also, if tax season is super stressful every year, that's a good sign you should outsource. And also, if I have some clients that come to me that are so organized with their bookkeeping, they're doing an amazing job, but they're like, it's taking away time that they could be spending getting that next deal. So that's also, if you feel like you don't actually have time to be spending on the other activities in your business, that's also a good time to outsource bookkeeping.
So a way for an investor who might be a CFO, so to speak, of their real estate business, and they're keeping good records and they're fine at tax time, but it's time consuming. The more doors you have, it's time consuming to reconcile your books every month. And it's a way to buy back your time.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some signs that their current system or their current bookkeeper isn't serving their real estate portfolio very well?
If you have a bookkeeper and you still feel like you have no idea what's going on in your business, that's a red flag. Something's wrong.
Yes.
You should be able to have a clear picture of how your portfolio is performing by property. Also, some things I see all the time that maybe a generalist bookkeeper doesn't understand about real estate is how to book a closing statement. I have some flippers that are sending me closing statements a couple of weeks. We're looking at those a lot. We're experts at closing statements. So really what I see all the time is someone's taking like that net cash at the bottom and they're booking it to like buildings for a long-term rental, or maybe they're booking it to gain or loss on sale for if it's a sale. And that's not right. You need to look at every transaction on that closing statement and categorize it appropriately, and the type of investment is going to depend on where it goes. And so that's something you should be looking at. And then I think also things that we run into a lot are like things with some creative loan strategies and things like that. I see a lot of mistakes in that area where maybe principal, interest, and escrow aren't broken out, construction draws aren't really making sure that your bookkeeper has a good understanding on those types of things.
And it's so important to work with a bookkeeper who understands the type of real estate investing that you're doing. For most people, it's going to be long-term rentals or short-term rentals. Some people are developers. They're buy and renovate and sell, for example, what we call flip. Yeah. Or maybe you're a lender, right? Maybe you're lending hard money to somebody else, or buying tax liens, whatever, or wholesaler. That's a whole new level of complicated. But somebody that is a real estate savvy bookkeeper. It's certainly in our financial planning business, we use somebody to keep our books that keeps books for fee-for-service financial planners. Makes it a lot easier for me. I'm not going in there and having to reconcile the books.
And you don't have to answer the same question. What is earnest money again?
So what is the number one mistake that you see real estate investors make with their books?
I do see a lot of the mixing the personal and the business. That's one issue. I actually find like once you are taking your bookkeeping seriously, once you're making it part of your like scheduled business habits, you're not going to mix business and personal anymore, because every time you go to use that business card for a personal transaction, you're like, oh, my bookkeeper is going to ask me about this. So you start to learn pretty quickly once you are really in the weeds of your bookkeeping. But so there's that. And then, like I mentioned, the closing statements being booked in correctly. And that has such a large impact on your business as well, because if you're not appropriately capitalizing and expensing the transactions from your closing statement and your everyday transactions as well, you can't send that data to your tax CPA. They're going to send it back to you, or they're going to use incorrect data to calculate your depreciation. You're losing money on potential tax savings by not doing it correctly.
In our practice, we often see that people are very concerned about asset protection, and they set up an asset protection structure with an attorney, for example. It's fairly straightforward. They're putting their rental or rentals in a limited liability company, and sometimes it's much more complicated, where they have an LLC for each property. They may have may have a C Corp at the top if they're flipping properties, for example, as a company structure, sometimes an S Corp. And they don't keep their corporate structure. How do you work with folks like that? Like, how do you get them cleaned up and then to a point where every dollar that comes in and every dollar that gets spent is appropriately in the right place and accounted for?
I see this a lot too. And eventually, once we have everything cleaned up, which we could talk about how we did, we really are encouraging them to do it correctly going forward. If you didn't do it correctly in the past, we meet with our client right before we start any bookkeeping to really understand their entity structure, because I don't want to go back and fix it. So we get a really good understanding of their entity structure. And then sometimes we have to meet with their tax CPA or lawyer too to really understand it if maybe they can't explain it to us. And then if we understand, okay, this property, we have a holding company for this property, we have an operating company for this property, then we make sure all the operating expenses are going through the operating company. And then we have the asset balance, the fixed asset in the holding company. The good thing is QuickBooks is really flexible in the sense that like we can do reclass transactions however we need to. So we get the cleanup done and then we encourage you to make sure you're doing things in the correct entity that you're supposed to.
For people who like numbers, like we do, doing things in QuickBooks Online is not as daunting, especially if you've had an accounting class in, for example, the basics of how accounting works. And you don't have to be an expert. But to the person who does not have any accounting knowledge, they often find that doing real estate in QuickBooks is really difficult and complicated. Those folks to get comfortable with it.
Yeah. So QuickBooks is amazing in the sense that it's supposed to apply to all different kinds of industries. So it can be a little daunting to get the real estate set up in there, but they have so many, it's so robust. There's so many fields that we can use. So what we do is we always recommend the Plus subscription of QuickBooks that way, because you really need that class field. So there's a business field. It's also called location. You can change the setting in QuickBooks to rename it. We name it business, and we use that for all the different entities. And the class field is what we use for properties. And I would really recommend using both of those fields for all of your transactions. A lot of people will come to us they try to like finagle it to work a different way. And the best way to do it is business and class. And then having a real estate specific chart of accounts so that you can book your transactions. And yeah, once you have it set up, it's very easy to do going forward.
So it certainly sounds like that even if somebody plans to keep their own books going forward, having engagement with a real estate savvy bookkeeper to help them get their books set up correctly at the beginning and teach them how to keep it, I think could be useful. Is that something that you do in your firm?
It's not something we currently do, just because demand is a little too high right now. It's like toggling between where we can spend our time. So right now we are working with people who just want monthly bookkeeping. We just want to outsource it. That's something I hope to do again in the future. That's also something on my like bigger plan of the next year or so, is to do some sort of client education, because I get that question all the time, is like, how can I do it myself? So I do want to be able to offer something like that, but it's not something right now.
So what is the bigger plan?
Right now, I have 2 full-time bookkeepers who work with me, and we're doing monthly bookkeeping for about 30 clients right now. And I love it. I'm so happy. I love just having that personal touch with clients. I like that it feels very personal to them. I want to maintain that structure, grow it a little bit, and have a small but mighty team of bookkeepers who are all interested in real estate and just very real estate focused community. And then also I would like to add that education piece, because I get that question all the time and I hate that I can't like address that need. So that's next on the agenda as we grow.
Keep us posted about that. If somebody's listening today and they're frustrated with their bookkeeping system or the transparency that they're not getting about their rental property business, how should they look for a real estate savvy bookkeeper?
Yeah, making sure you're asking the right question is, I think, key to make sure the bookkeeper understands. But even like when I was hiring bookkeepers to help me with my firm, it's like I would ask specific questions like, how would you book a closing statement? Can you explain to me what earnest money is? Just like a simple question, like they don't know the question ahead of time. That's a pretty clear indicator of whether or not they understand real estate. Another one I get a lot is like, how do you book a construction draw? That seems to stump a lot of investors that are doing their own bookkeeping. It's just making sure you're asking the right questions ahead of time, and then also maybe asking for specific examples of real estate investors they've worked with. I also love to bring up like actual reports to show real estate investors this is what your report should look like. So I'm just curious what you asked for as well.
Sometimes people don't know the difference between what they would use a bookkeeper for and what they would use a tax CPA for. How would you break that down?
Yes, so I think this does confuse a lot of people because I get a lot of tax questions. And I am a CPA, so I understand.
Right, so you could answer them, yeah.
Yeah. One of the largest advantages to real estate is tax. And you want to be going to an expert, just like you want a real estate specific bookkeeper. You also want a real estate specific tax CPA who's going to help you take advantage of everything. What I say is the bookkeeper is really building the foundation of your books. They're going to help you tell the story of how your business is doing, what you're doing in your business, how properties are performing. And then that gives you the ability to bring that to your tax CPA and have really thoughtful conversations about strategy and filing your taxes. And I meet with my clients' tax CPAs so that we're on the same page. When you have your bookkeeper and your tax CPA on the same call, it really makes your life a lot easier.
But maybe your financial planner.
And your financial planner. Okay, round it out. Very true.
What are some of the things any real estate investors should be doing with their bookkeeper on a monthly basis?
Well, your bookkeeper should be categorizing all of your transactions every month, reconciling your bank and credit card accounts, which means basically like whatever your accounting system or bookkeeping system says your bank and credit card balances, that should match what's on your statement. And I think I see this, that's a mistake I see a lot too, is either they're not reconciled or they're reconciled with a difference and it's off by $30, but then you dig into that $30 and it's 20 transactions or missed. You want to make sure all of your accounts are reconciled to zero every month and then that you're reviewing your financial statements every month. At minimum, we're doing balance sheet and P&L. Some of our clients have some kind of custom reporting that they want. They want to see like certain properties grouped together, whatnot. We are happy to accommodate that as well. So at a minimum, it's making sure you're looking at it every month, just getting into the habit of it.
What's next for you and your husband in your real estate business?
A good question. We are really focusing on the bookkeeping business right now. We would love to get a bigger house hack, maybe, or it's like a duplex, both apartments, like 700 square feet. So as our family grows, we would love to be
a little more space.
Yeah, even we like the idea of maybe doing a house with some sort of ADU mother-in-law suite for a short-term rental potentially. So that's what we're looking at next. But right now the focus is certainly on the bookkeeping business too.
So you're investing in yourselves.
Oh, sorry. He said we're investing in ourselves.
You're investing in yourselves and the growth of your entrepreneurial venture.
Yes.
So I always tell clients, when you're thinking about your broader investment policy, right, that isn't just your securities, right? That's not just what you have in stocks and how much you have in bonds. It's how much you reinvest in yourself and your ability to create income for yourself. And it's how much you invest in other income producing businesses. Are you investing in real estate? Are you investing, for example, in venture capital in somebody else's business? So I invite financial planners to broaden their idea about what investing is because people do invest in different ways. And hopefully they've got a diverse portfolio of income generating activities, not just ways that they are protecting the wealth that they've already earned.
That makes sense. And also like investing in your time and your ability to live a life that you're excited about. That's like where we prioritize our investing.
Yeah. So what do you think your generation views real estate differently than, say, your parents' generation?
Yeah, I think so. Both my husband's parents and my parents have lived in the same house for over 30 years, whereas I think our generation maybe is a bit more flexible to hop around, and that has to do with the ability to work remotely as well. I know that my husband and I have lived in 4 different places in just like 10 years. So I think our parents' generation had the right idea in the sense that that's how you build wealth is through real estate is to hold it long term. If you hold it long enough, it's benefit.
That's right. The real estate cycle is longer than the business cycle. To have the full benefit, even as an investor, not just a homeowner, where you need to own something for like at least 20 years.
Yeah, so they definitely had the right idea there. And I think it's tough because it's like the housing market is so crazy right now. So all of our friends are at the age where they're buying a house and it's very expensive. I don't know. I guess that's a good thing to learn from our parents' generation is to buy it and hold it.
Interestingly, there's a lot of research that's come out over the past 5 to 6 years where organizations like Bankrate and NerdWallet, for example, and the Pew Research have done surveys by age of folks as what they think is the primary driver of investment growth. And for people under 50, they say real estate, right? It used to be the older somebody is, the more likely they are to say stocks, the stock market. But the younger somebody is, I like to say that's the HGTV effect. Also, it gets easier than it is.
Yes.
Properties magically just renovate themselves and there are no permits.
There's no issue.
But the idea that real estate is an important component, a growth strategy to actually try and accumulate wealth over your lifetime. So it shows up in a really different way. And I think more people are thinking about things like house hacking and building investment portfolios. And certainly the number of folks that own investment properties has risen over time. So 17 million tax-paying households in the United States that own investment properties. And most of those people are mom and pop.
Yeah, that's amazing. I definitely agree with the house hacking aspect as well. Like my parents were like, oh, we should have done that.
Yeah. My husband, Steve, and I, we started buying properties during the Great Recession, in part because we'd been big accumulators and investors, mostly in securities up until that point, that we each had our own businesses at various points. But as the numbers at the end of your net worth get a little bit bigger, also when you have a big market turn, that number looks a little bit bigger. That was a big wake-up call for us. We said we really need to diversify out of just securities. And it turned out, of course, that turned out to be the best financial decision of our lives. Helped my husband leave his corporate executive job in his late 50s and for me to start this firm focused on real estate investors.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's why I also work with a financial advisor that specializes in real estate too, because it is so important to diversify and look at your portfolio like holistically. It can be easy to get, depending on the type of person you are, like to just focus on one thing. It can be easy to forget that there's all these other mechanisms you should be thinking about as well.
So what are some things that you're curious about right now?
Yeah, so I think with the rise of all the AI and the new tools and softwares, it's just my husband is certainly really interested in those types of things. So he's always researching things that we can use to improve the firm and the services we're offering to our clients. He'll end up doing lots of research on it, and then I try to implement it, see what I like, see what I don't like. So that's something we're always curious about, is how can we better serve our clients and be more efficient, and just the different types of softwares that are popping up. I feel like there's so many real estate specific softwares right now that don't have the best bookkeeping functionality. So I'm staying on top of those to see if anything pops up that can really give a picture of property management, rent collection, repairs, maintenance, and bookkeeping. Right now, we haven't quite seen that, but I'm interested to see what's coming out.
Best piece of advice that you've ever received?
I don't know if it's advice I probably heard on a podcast somewhere, but don't let perfection get in the way of progress. I think as an accountant, I can be everything has to be, there's a right answer in accounting, which is why I love it. Like everything has to be in the right place. But there's never going to be a perfect time or way to do things, essentially, especially with investing. Like there's never a perfect time to buy real estate. You're like, oh, when the market goes down, whatnot. So and then the same thing with the business. So like maybe I can't start the business right now because I want a little bit more saved up or something. There's never a perfect time. Don't let perfection get in the way of progress. Like small everyday action is really how you see growth.
Is the attitude of an entrepreneur. Before we ring off, let's a little bit about what in the market for real estate investors right now. Where do you see opportunities?
I feel like, and as far as investing opportunity, is that what you're asking?
Just where do you see opportunities for real estate investors right now?
I'm biased, but I see opportunities. Investors focusing on their own portfolios. I think everybody's hyper-focused on growth, but there's so much growth that can happen if you look at your own business holistically, really get an understanding of how things are happening in your business. And then that can really help you grow, because you can learn from your mistakes. Like inevitably, you're going to make mistakes with investing. And if you don't actually take the time to slow down and say, okay, how did that property perform? Was it in line with the budget I put together? Really look at your budget to actual. I think slowing down and taking that time to understand, it will propel you forward so much more than if you just kept running as fast as you can. So that's where I think there's certainly opportunities.
I think that's perfect guidance, because your real estate books is your real estate portfolio expressed in numbers. There was just, as you mentioned, there's a story in that. Looking at that from a helicopter level view, and to see where you have advantages and opportunities and where you need to clean things. It's the story of every business owner.
Yeah, Exactly. I learned accounting. I took accounting in high school for the first time.
Accounting in high school, really?
I took accounting as a freshman in high school. I took accounting as a freshman. I landed in that. I think unlucky, but it turned out to be lucky. I wasn't happy at the time. I was like, oh, accounting. I want to take pottery. But really, I actually loved accounting. Like right away, I was good at it. And then I ended up taking like a business course career of high school. Like made a business path in my high school, modeled after what I had done just by choice. So I loved accounting for a long time.
Kristen, tell me, where can we find you online?
So we're really big on LinkedIn, but also Instagram. I think we're on TikTok, YouTube. I like to engage. Oh, and Bigger Pockets. I'm mostly engaging on LinkedIn, and Bigger Pockets is where I'm talking to the most people. And a lot of my clients have come from Bigger Pockets and LinkedIn. And it's just having good conversations with people there, even that necessarily aren't like great fits for clients. It's just a good community.
Yes,
it's real estate investors.
I always say that Bigger Pockets is the LinkedIn for real estate investors. Right? I was teaching a couple of sessions at a convention or a conference of fee-only financial planners at the NAFA conference this past weekend. At the end of the workshop, I gave them some action steps. And I was like, if you're not in Bigger Pockets, join Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
So, Kristen, it's been amazing to talk to you today. I think you've done wonderful things in your business. You're a bookkeeping rock star for real estate investors and Jersey girl.
Yes, thank you so much.
So thanks very much for being on Conversation today, and we hope to have you back again in the future.
Yeah, thanks. Looking forward to working with you. Maybe share some clients.